Hello everyone, welcome to the final episode of Somebody's Weezer is Drowning My Jukebox. I'm your host Andy Smith, and today we're going to cover the my top two personal favorite Weezer albums. Let's get right into it. Number 2, we have 2014's Everything Will Be Alright in the End. I love this album. It is my sentimentally my favorite Weezer album. It's perfection for me. It really is. This album is basically seen as a comeback story for Weezer. They're writing the tales of two very critically mediocre albums, one terrible in Gratitude, and one that just didn't do well in Hurley. And they also had Death to False Metal in that little 2-year span, so they're not swinging very good in terms of good music right now. And they took a 4-year break between Hurley in 2010 to Everything Will Be Alright in the End. And they came out with this album, and it really, really, really brings them back to form, back to shape in a really good way. This album is very, very reminiscent of the Green Album in terms of not really varying sound too much. Lyrically, it does go a bit deeper and more meaningful and personal into Rivers Cuomo's life and his storytelling than the Green Album does, which is awesome. As far as specific songs go, Back to the Shack is great. It was the lead single off this album. It's just a hard-rocking, really just good song. Eulogy for a Rock Band, very self-aware. This album is really self-aware in that the band almost realizes, we've been at this for a while. We've done some bad stuff. Let's try to, end on a good note. They haven't ended yet, though. It has a very good vibe of this may be our last album. Let's make the most of it, and it works. Fortunately enough, it wasn't their last album. They are still making good music today. As far as this album goes, it really reminds me of fall. I don't know why I get really fall vibes to it. Probably thanks in part to the album cover. And it's basically a routine of mine every year to listen to this album once fall starts coming in, the leaves start changing color. So it holds a lot of sentimental value for me. And it's also just a really, really good album, like musically. There isn't a bad song on here. There's really no bad track on this album at all. And I just love it so very much. And this was the album that got me into Weezer. I remember listening to Back to the Shack on the radio, and I was like, oh, this is really good. I want to check out Weezer. And the rest is history. I've seen them 3 times now and played Back to the Shack once and Go Away once, and that's it because they only play the hits, and these aren't the hits. This is a very, very lesser known album as far as the hits go, but it's still one of my absolute favorites. I love this album so much, and it rightfully deserves to be number 2. Coming in at number 1, the best Weezer album of all time. This isn't even up for debate. This isn't a hot take on my part. This album is widely known as the best album, which is the Blue Album. This album really established Weezer as a rock, pop, punk sort of powerhouse. Come off with 3 really, 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 really good and really, really popular singles, and Say It Ain't So, The Sweater Song, Buddy Holly, all of which have amazing music videos. There's nothing bad to say about this album. From start to finish, from My Name is Jonas, which is the best intro track on an album ever, all the way to Only in Dreams, which is an 8-minute long, really sad, emo feeling track that really does transition the band from the Blue Album to Pinkerton. This album is perfect. It's just full of these catchy, really good guitar riffs and chords and lyrics and choruses that all work so well. It just all blends together perfectly. No One Else is a really good song. The World Has Turned and Left Me Here, fantastic. We get our first big single in Buddy Holly, which everyone knows. It's so catchy, so good. The Sweater Song, instrumentally one of my favorite songs. It has that little beginning chord, which is so recognizable, so awesome. Surflax America is very fast-paced and fun and breezy and beachy. Say It Ain't So is an emo classic. In the Garage and Holiday are 2 of the lesser known tracks in this album, but they're really good. In the Garage is sort of like a ballad to Rivers' Days, is a sort of a lesser known kind of artist who would spend most of his days in his garage playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends or making bad music. Holiday is a great song. This could have very well have easily ended the album and it would have been perfect, but then they had to go to Only in Dreams, which is still Weezer's longest song to date, which really does transition from Blue to Pinkerton perfectly. With this album, Weezer really solidified their persona of being, you know, this counterculture of being nerd rockers, where you don't have to be a cool rock star to be, you know, awesome. You know, Rivers Cuomo really does personify the fact that you can be a nerd and be cool with this album. And that really was the voice of a generation. And it is kind of unfortunate that they go and sort of squander that image a little bit with Pinkerton, with the lyrics in Pinkerton and the themes of Pinkerton, but the themes of the Blue Album, you know, I'm not cool, but that's okay. I still am going to make these awesome guitar licks and awesome choruses and awesome songs. You know, it really helped a lot of people feel okay in their own skin, because Weezer, the themes on the Blue Album are all about becoming okay in your own skin, essentially. So there you have it. All 14 of Weezer's albums ranked from worst to best. This has been Somebody's Weezer's Drowning My Jukebox. I have been your host, Andy Smith. Keep rocking. Listen to some good music. And maybe I'll see you for another thing. I don't know. This was kind of fun. See ya.